street deals. But Chris Jackson's been to meet one group of people in Northumberland who are absolutely convinced it has a place in modern healthcare, and they're not afraid to break the law to provide it.
Marijuana, weed, grass. They're all names for the same thing, cannabis. We all know about people who smoke it for fun, but less well known are the hundreds of sick people who rely on the drug as a painkiller, and the covert networks set up to supply them with this illicit medicine.
Using cannabis makes me walk better, it makes my arms work better, it makes me see better, it makes my speech work, it stops me wetting myself, it stops me falling over, and ultimately it makes me feel a bit happier than I did when I wasn't taking it.
It makes me feel great that there are now places that have the courage and the guts to come forward to help people like myself.
Twice a week in a village in the north of England, volunteers set to work. They're called THC4MS, a mail-order company with a difference. They send out 200 parcels to multiple sclerosis sufferers all over the country. What's inside? Cannabis-laced chocolate. It reaches people like Leslie Gibson.
I went from being a very active hairdresser to being a disabled person. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't dress myself, I couldn't wash my face. At 20 it was awful.
The operation is shrouded in secrecy, and for good reason. What they're up to could land them with a hefty prison sentence. Each bar contains pure cannabis worth £20, but they send it out for free. To keep going, they rely on donations of chocolate, cannabis and cash. Pauline Taylor has had MS for 10 years. For 5 of those, she smoked cannabis to ease her pain.
At the very beginning, it was my daughter who got it for me. I was very worried about exposing my daughter in that way, and it will be something that I will always be grateful to her for. She could have got herself into a lot of trouble.
Today she's trying something new, her first ever bar of cannabis chocolate.
I feel excited, and I feel wary. Obviously it's a new way of taking cannabis, and I'll have to take little nibbles and you know, do it gradually to get the effect.
50 miles away, another unlikely drug user is in the kitchen. Pat Tabram could go to jail after admitting in court that she's been buying cannabis and adding it to meals she cooks for sick friends near her home in Northumberland.
I'm going to put the magic ingredient in. Well, the first cannabis I ever bought, I was told to go to a pub in East End, Newcastle, and I sat there looking out of place with my shopping trolley, and then I was told this man would come in at about 11:30, and he did. And I said, "Excuse me, are you selling bags of cannabis?" Well, he could see I wasn't a policeman, right? And he said, "Yes." I said, "How much is it?" He said, £20 a bag. And I was expecting a bag, you know, and so I gave him the £20. And he gave me this tiny little bag. I said, "Is that all?" He said, "You'll get a lot out of it, my dear."
Most 66-year-olds would be terrified to do what Pat did, which is where groups like Bud Buddies, run by Jeffrey Ditchfield, come in. He makes illegal cannabis creams, capsules and ready-rolled joints and posts them to sick people. He's taking all the risks and has been arrested 5 times.
Cultivation and supplying cannabis is punishable by up to maximum 14 years in prison, whereas simple possession has effectively been decriminalised. I've just committed 7 counts there of production of a controlled drug with intent to supply, which I will be doing, because once these are cooled and set, I will then be sending them out to people who suffer from arthritis, who are Bud Buddies, and they will get the benefit of it. Before Bud Buddies started helping people, they were having to get cannabis from their local dealers. People who were dealing not just cannabis, dealing dangerous Class A drugs, and even the form of cannabis that they're selling, Soap Bar and Rocky, that these dealers sell only contains less than 10% cannabis. The rest of it is made up of plastic, diesel, ketamine, which is a horse tranquilizer. So people are damaging their health by going to dealers, plus they've got the chance of being ripped off, being assaulted, and I don't think that people in wheelchairs should have to go down back alleys to meet scumbag dealers to get what effectively to them is a medicine.
So, what does the law say? A year ago, cannabis was downgraded to a Class C drug. Now, having the drug should just get you a ticking off. But at the same time, penalties for supplying, even if you're giving it away to sick people, have stayed the same. So how does the government explain this?
To allow the cultivation and possession of cannabis would create a clear tension between the government and its education message that all controlled drugs, including cannabis, are harmful and that no one should take them. Cannabis remains a controlled drug for good reason. It has a number of acute and chronic health effects and can induce dependence.
And what about doctors? Privately, some GPs advise their patients to use the drug to relieve their pain, but others say people should stay well clear until cannabis-based medicines currently being trialled are available over the counter.
Perhaps the best known effect of cannabis is that it can cause this change in mood, which means that it can be incredibly distressing, can cause terrible nightmares, confusion and so on. But in addition to that, we have to recognize that cannabis contains hundreds of active agents. About 40 of them are the cannabinoids, the things that we think of as cannabis, and all of those have the potential to cause side effects in different people.
It tastes really nice. It just tastes like chocolate. Feels a bit gravelly. It's really quite nice actually. And it's definitely Moorish. The pins and needles in my legs, definitely less. I just feel as though my head's clearer than it was. And that I might just venture out. It's just nice to know that all I have to do is open the fridge door and I'll be able to have some chocolate, which will help my pain.
But it might not be so easy. Recently, the group supplying the chocolate cannabis was raided by the police, and cannabis and chocolate-making equipment were seized. 2 people were arrested and are currently on bail. But in future, groups like THC4MS and Bud Buddies could be immune from prosecution, depending on a ruling expected any day by the Court of Appeal.
And the Attorney General, on a point of law, has sent my case to the Court of Appeal, which will decide whether I will be allowed in future the defence of medical necessity and the defence of duress if I'm taken to court again.
In the meantime, people like Granny Pat are still breaking the law to keep the clandestine supply lines open.
I'm just like a little district nurse, really. But instead of going around with injection needles and things, I go around with boxes of food which will keep them pain-free.
I'm always nervous that I'm going to bump into the police, the Northumbria police, because they're very exacting. And if they suspected for 1 minute that I had food in here, they'd arrest me.
This time she's only visiting, not delivering, but she's still keeping some secrets.
I wonder if I could ask you gentlemen to stay here, because I don't want the lady in question, who's in her early 80s, to be recognised by the police or anyone in Northumberland. I'll be back in about 10 minutes if that's all right. Okay?
That's all from Inside Out Extra, and remember, if there's anything you want to find out about any of the stories seen on tonight's programme, you can check out our website, bbc.co.uk/insideout.